Imagine, 2:47 a.m., your desktop is as bright as an operating table. The to-do list is split into short needles, emails are like landslides, and the red dots in the corner of your cell phone are jumping. You carry the coffee to the third cup, and you tell yourself, it's easier to hold on a little longer. But why do you clean it up so hard that it's like a garbage dump? Why is the time full and the meaning leaking? Are you doing everything right, or are you doing the whole thing wrong? Now I'll give you a two-way option to keep the word more information, more courses, more methods in your head and expect the next message to be the key to saving lives, or shut down the 10 entrances and keep only one entrance, start reducing the entropy, making the input less, slower, deeper. Which is more like trying? Which is more effective? You think anxiety comes from the less than enough effort, but it's more like the noise about the direction of the effort. You focus on the outside wind, hot spots, billboards, other people's beats, so every time you refresh it, you calibrate your nervous system to a shorter cycle. You try to be a fuel for chaos. The real question is probably more cruel. You are not lazy, but you are failing. So the ultimate problem is not to do not learn another skill, but rather, do you want to stop the increase and start reducing the entropy? And then we go down to the roots of the noise and see who's stealing your sobering, and why it's not your fault to try harder and anxious, but the design of the system. You think anxiety comes from many missions, but it's more like an information fever. The temperature does not come from a big deal, but from constant frictions in countless small inputs. Henley has warned that the world does not necessarily depend on bands to enslave you, and more often on supplies. It takes away the truth not by denying it, but by overdoses of interesting uses to swallow it. You are not blinded, you are drunk, you are not without choice, but rather surrounded by choice. So, your efforts are turned into a heater, feeding the heat noise into the system, causing the anxiety temperature to rise. At the brain level, anxiety is first and foremost a buildup of prediction errors. Your brain is a predictional, post-correction machine. The more chaotic the input, the more unstable the prediction. The more unstable the prediction, the more likely the system is to be stabilized with more frequent sampling, that is, more frequent refreshing, checking, learning, comparing. The surface is in control of the outside world, actually using higher input frequencies in exchange for short determinations. That is the first trap of, the more anxious the effort is, efforts to be hijacked by the input frequency and become a focus tax for uncertainty. Jung will remind you of another dark stream. When the external input becomes the main source of your order, your shadow begins to take over. Those who are not integrated desire, shame, fear, and pretend to see one more as progress. You are not pursuing knowledge, you are appeased by the invisible, fear of backwardness, fear of elimination, fear of, I am not good enough. So you give the power to prove your own worth to an endless input. Every brush is a short-lived self-consortium and a small amount of support for self-sovereignty. Nietzsche calls this a reactive life. You don't choose to enter it on the basis of your own creation of value coordinates, but you are first fed and drawn to interpret it as value. The more busy you are responding to the outside world, the less active, yes, your effort is directed not towards construction, but towards pain. For a long time, you mistook the word frost for quick as strong, good, and the word slow as fragile as fault. This is the second trap, to recognize the saturation of feelings as a kind of growth. The Stoic school gives a cold knife, controllable and uncontrollable. What's really manageable is your attention, your judgment, your immediate action. What's uncontrollable is external beats, the eyes of others, the wind of algorithms. In reality, however, you're inversely configured to put most of your efforts into uncontrollable, hot spots, speed, and to put the least of your efforts into control, breathing, narrative, hands-on. It's not that you don't understand. It's the third most important trap, a systematic reward. Social structures provide the fourth most important trap, the visibility economy. In this economy, the most rewarded is not the depth, but the response speed, not the insight, but the immediate position. In order not to be left behind, you take the initiative of shifting the input valves to the maximum. More groups, more channels, more notice. You have a false perception of information as if it were more secure. Security never comes from the amount of input, but from the stability of coordinates. When coordinates move out, your self is changed by the emotions and algorithms of the outside world, like magnetic fields, easily. There is also a fifth weight, language and narrative. When you turn life into a mission language, you unwittingly take everything into order. Reading lists, curriculum lists, card lists, every one completed, you get a small vanity and comfort. You forget that there are prefixes, you forget that construction requires whites and buffers. When language takes excessive slices, you live in the fragments, and anxiety only breeds between the cracks of the fragments. With these 5 traps tied together, you will see a cruel but clear logical chain: overloaded, unpredictable, increased frequency of sampling, more frequent effort, short-term incentives addiction, long-term deep work avoidance, self-coordinate outsourcing, rising anxiety. In this link, effort is not wrong, but efforts are hijacked by the wrong input structure. You think more can be solved, actually by giving more blood to the entropy. So, the core of the problem is never, do not add more lessons, but do you want to reload the structure and get the effort out of the addiction short-term and back to the long-term construction cycle? The ancient laws of Hermes fall here in a reminiscent phrase: inner, as in the past, as in your cruise, as in the case of your arrival. Your inner input structure, calculation, depth, coordinates, determines where you arrive: aware, thickness, sovereignty. When you choose to reduce entropy, it is not passive retreat, but rather the ability to actively restore order, to allow a small, clean, and stable input for long-term work and personality. You have seen the edge of the pit. Next, we look at how, if not adjusted, the system will quietly account for your time, relationship, creativity, and even fake narratives, and why a little more effort will only make the bill thicker. When the input valves reach maximum every year, the first thing your life loses is not time, but the level of time. The day is cut into fragments: 5 minutes of information, 3 minutes of short reviews, 2 minutes of comparison, 1 minute of transmission. There is no buffer zone between the fragments, like moving the emergency lanes to traffic on the highway. You move forward and actually rotate in place. Every time you look at it as an uncertain painkiller, but your pain threshold is getting lower. The next day, your nervous system stops in last night's high-frequency pattern: shallowness, early awakening, a mild heartbeat, anxiety like the back of the program. Relationships are also quietly rewritten. You turn intimateness into alignment cooperation, brush information together, synchronize hot spots, share anxiety. Dialogue is no longer about each other's true feelings, but about seeing, understand, follow up. When visibility becomes a criterion for assessment, delay is misreaded and silence is marked as indifference. You learn careful care, read, return, online. Everything that can be measured replaces everything that deserves to be heard. For a long time, relationships have changed from square to square, from succession to catch up, and you are more like 2 independent fish in the same information network. In terms of work and creation, destruction is structural. The HF input has trained you in short-cycle scheduling, immediate collection, immediate synthesizing, and quick presentation. This seems to be effective in emergency tasks, but lethal for deep work. It is difficult for you to stay 90 minutes on the same issue because the inner reward clock has been rewritten. I am not wasting time, and I need immediate feedback to confirm that I am not wasting my time. So, the real need for slow engineering, writing a solid book, building a reusable system, eating a hard discipline, has been repeatedly interrupted, restarted, interrupted again. Each restart has contextual cost. The synonyms built in the brain, the cost of reassembling, is miscalculated as, how I am so stupid. You are not stupid, and your cognitive buffers have never been allowed. The consequences of the social dimension are colder. In order to remain focused, the platform encourages immediate positions and the spread of anger. Moderate complexity is difficult to survive, and intense certainty is easier to win. Public space thus presents a challenging order: who is fast, who is right, who is loud, who is true. Critical thinking is forced into slogans, and suspicious gestures are labeled as swinging. And what's more hidden is the loss of rights to narratives. When the amount of input increases indefinitely, your inner author becomes unemployed. You think you're knowing the world, and you're using the script of the world to understand yourself. Hotspots provide conflict, lists provide goals, segments provide conclusions. You talk like a paste, you think like a formatting model. The scariest thing is that you don't know how to walk without wind. If you don't push, you're worried. If you don't have a mission, you're empty. If you don't compare, you suspect that you exist. So you look for more input to prove that I'm still alive, and there's another layer of anxiety. When these accounts are spread, you will see 3 types of long-term taxation. 1. Attention taxes. Gold periods are consumed in fragments and long-term items are blood deficit. 2. Emotion taxes. Each input requires a statement, and you pay excessive emotional costs for minor matters. 3. Innovation taxes. The context is broken repeatedly, and depth generation is forced to be shallow as a translator and reaction. When 3 taxes are added, your life balance sheet starts to look bad. The list of to-dos is long and the ability to move is short. Much more to see, few to see, much more to laugh, few to write. You think you can pull it back, actually sending the system another barrel of fuel. The more you work, the higher the entropy, the more you work to stop the pain. This is a spin-off anxiety loop. Here, a more cruel question emerges. If you suddenly remove all inputs, you know what else you're building. If the answer is vague, it means that the loss is not only time, but also direction and anchor. And direction and anchor are only growing in low-noise areas. So the solution is not smarter intake, but rather a change in the physical structure of the input: beats, valves, density, and belonging. What can be done is to make the effort stop feeding the entropy, but rather to provide order. What you have to do is not breath more, but to rewrite the physical structure of the input, which transforms the effort from a fuel of entropy to an energy of order. The following 9 entropy input methods are anti-intuitive but landable knives, each of which works within 72 hours. 1. Close the valves, not control the flow, 25 to 5 entrances, and stop trying to trace the whole net efficiently. What you have to do is cut down the number of entrances to 5, 2 books, 1 long podcaster, 1 source, 1 deep author, and cancel all subscriptions or convert them to hand draw them up. The rules: 25 minutes of total daily input, 2 time absorption. The rest of the time only takes the material from these 5 sources. 2. The beat reset, 90/30ths further work. Enter the inverse input after further work rather than before. 90 minutes for a job that can leave something behind, then 30 minutes for a study/browsing. The brain aligns the input automatically to your problem just now, rather than taking you to a new subject. Intuitive point: output before input, then the input is scratched. 3. The format changes bone, from scanned reading to narrated reading instead of drawing lines, but using oral or handwriting to convert the paragraphs into 3 sentences. What are the authors saying? By what? What does it matter to me? A 3rd sentence every 20 minutes. Intuitive point: it's not hard to remember that there is little information, but that there is no talk. 4. Information for entropy card: the factory explains operation, FIA, which encounters any subject that makes you want to search 10 more articles, writes an FIA card immediately. Fact, video verifier, interpretation: I can caption, operation, I can take the smallest step in 24 hours, and returns to fact/action as soon as the interpretation begins to swell. Intuitive point: the action is infused, not intuitive. 5. Input quota: 80/20ths low entropy/high entropy sets a 1-day entropy quota, 80% from low entropy text, books, papers, long scripts, and 20% from high entropy speed, information, short videos. Only 2 high entropy windows, 15 minutes in the afternoon, 15 minutes in the evening, are retained on mobile phones, and the rest of the time is silenced. Intuitive point: instead of stopping all entertainment, you keep the noise loops. 6 thematic week instead of theme day, 7 days to follow a single question selection of an issue worthy of patient treatment, e.g., how to make a cross-monthly review system, and establishment of theme week. All inputs serve only this issue. Rule: 1 page per day of notes on the theme plus 1 small experiment, templates, scripts, processes. Inverse intuition point: breadth is derived from weekly rolling depth ***, rather than the pleasure of changing topics on a day-to-day basis. 7 Sagan's Pocket asks for questions, but file it and don't publish it. Counterintuitive: non-participation is also in a clean information field, and your beats are no longer hijacked by the immediate position. 8 Odysseus rope: commitment device binds you to the future. Self-design limits in a coma when you wake up, application of blacklists, delay in sending 24 hours, RSS synchronized only once a day, changing the notice to a daily aggregation. Turn the impulse of see a little more into a cost. Intuitive point: freedom is not an unlimited choice, freedom is a predictability for self-restraint. 9 Leave a white watch every day, 10% of the time is left free of any input, and on the agenda you draw white cells directly, walking, imbecile, non-tasking manual, which prohibit headphones. These white cells are cognitive cool towers that allow the front lobes to recover the fragments and grow out of the abstract layer. Intuitive point: it is not you who lack the knowledge, but what you lack is an empty warehouse that allows the knowledge to sink into a model. Day 1, listed portal cut down to 5, executed 1/90/30, output 3 narratives. Day 2, open theme week trial run, do 2 FIA cards, brush screens only in 2 high entropy windows. Day 3, implement Sagan 4 questions, at least 3, but not transmitted, times, complete a white watch for 60 minutes, set a daily aggregate notice for mobile phones. Philosophy anchors: remembering the golden phrase Jung, until you turn subconscious into consciousness, it will dominate your life, and you will call it destiny. Kierkegaard: affection is the dizziness of freedom. Helmer's: inner, as well as on your journey, as you have arrived. Copy them into the first page of your white watch. When you want to add another input, read it and decide whether to let it in. Next paragraph, we will push the structure to the end point. When you really reduce the entropy, you will see a deeper fact: the effort is never better, but the better you are. Be ready, we will see the last core of sovereignty. Imagine when you stood at the coldest moment before dawn, the city was as quiet as a deep well. You shut down all the entrances of last night, with only your own breath. In this almost disturbing silence, you suddenly heard a long disturbed voice, not outsiders calling you, but you calling yourself back. Here, you realize that the effort is not to be nice to the outside world, but to be the support of order, not to bring in more, but to leave less, the right thing behind. You thought that, to learn more, to take one step, to look again, would be safe, and that security would never be in the amount you entered, but only in your beats, your narratives, your identity. When you lower the valves, slow the beats, and cool the entrances, you find a counterintuitive balance: less information, more information, less action, less action, less action, less voice, clearer direction. The word freedom used by Kierkegaard is not to anesthetize the past with more information, but to learn to stand in the vertigo. Jung's reminder is finally down. When the subconscious is written into the FIA card and the subject weak, fate is no longer black box, and it has construction plans. The old law of Hermes is now simple: as it is inside, and as it is outside. When you reduce entropy on the inside, it stops tearing you to pieces on the outside. You don't follow the wind and change the subject into a week, a month, a season. You don't comfort yourself with a much better view than with a long due wait. You don't pay taxes on an immediate position, and you delay your position to the evidence and the work. At that point, you may see a new speed, the speed at which you are drawn back from the end of the result. Every entry, you can get directly to the beam that you are building, and every action, you can find coordinates in longer narratives. Take the final scene into one shot. You open the one-page tool in the middle of the desktop. The morning light is slanted from the top left corner, and there are only 3 lines on the paper: writing, making, sharing. Put your hand on the shelter and pause for a second, slowly cutting off one of the most noisy entrances. Then write down today's 90/30ths in the do and turn the timer over, and finally add a sentence to your theme week in the right. What am I saying? What am I doing? Why am I? You don't feel the world small, you just feel the world at last. The border is not the limit, but the line that saves the meaning from the infinity. So today's beams are not chicken soup, but agreement. Now, there are only 5 entry points, the rest being turned into handheld. Today, 90 minutes of further work are done before 30 minutes are allowed to enter. Tonight, 2 FIA cards are completed, and 10% white on the agenda. And when you really take this step, you find that anxiety has never been your enemy, but it's just a sign of your structure. And what you're going to do is not try harder to put water in the boat, but to fill it up, let the same effort begin to provide order. The black and golden sky has lit a light, so don't rush to prove it, hold the beat, do not hurry to learn and close the entrance. Your attention is back, and your course is back.